Welcome back to Perfectly Imperfect Furniture. Today I am going to show you a recent makeover that I did on this tall Art Deco waterfall style dresser. I picked this up at one of my local thrift stores and it was only, I think, $25. I have done several of these pieces over the last 10 years and I love painting them. They always look so sleek and updated and modern when painted in really any color. So here it is inside of my house, and overall it's in pretty good condition. Of course, there is some normal wear and tear, some scratches and dings and dents. I really do not love the hardware at all. I will be changing that. I also don't like the placement of the hardware. It just seems off to me. That bottom drawer went in too far, and that's because it's missing the drawer stoppers. I'm going to show you how I repair that later on in this video. But you can see here that the drawers are nice and solid with dovetail joints. And overall, like I said, it is in pretty good shape, at least functionally. It's a solid, nice piece, definitely worthy of a new life, a new look. It still has a lot of life left in it. And even though it was only $25, I am going to make this look like $1,000,000. This is not a custom piece. This is one that I'm doing for myself to sell, so I get to pick the color, and spoiler alert, it did sell very quickly. Let's start by addressing that bottom drawer and adding some drawer stoppers. There are several different ways that you can do this. You can buy the little metal stoppers like on Amazon, but I am going to use these wood squares, I guess, that I found at Hobby Lobby. And what I'm going to do is glue them in right where they need to be, and that will help the drawer sit nicely. These are like the perfect size for this, and they were very cheap. So I'm just placing them where they need to be. I will add some glue. This is the glue that I love to use. I'll make sure to link it for you guys. And you're just going to add some glue to the stopper. And then normally I would clamp these, but I didn't have any clamps that would fit correctly right here in the place that I needed them to. So I just put some weights on them. Later on, once they are fully secured, I'll add some little nails to make sure that they stay in place long term. I'm just lining them up here with the little holes that are in there where the drawer stopper was initially. So here I am adding some weight, and I will just let these sit here for several hours until the glue is completely dry. Now I'm removing the hardware, and I know you can't tell, but those knobs were plastic. I'm not sure if they're original to the piece or not. Sometimes Art Deco pieces have very cool and unique hardware, but like I told you before, I am not a fan of this hardware, and I'm not a fan of the placement. So after I measured out where I want my new hardware to be, I am just drilling new holes. I am going for just a simple knob all the way down the dresser. So measure twice, drill once. Make sure you get your measurements right before you drill. Otherwise, you're going to give yourself extra work by having to fill and re-drill the holes. And I will fill in the old hardware holes later. Now, I am going to sand down this top drawer. It had some pretty unique wood grain. It is veneer, but it is still wood grain. And I wanted to see if I liked it once I sanded it down. I am using 220 grit on my Festool sander. I will make sure to link my sander and my dust extractor for you guys. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's the best investment I've ever made for my business, as it allows me to sand right inside my home. And I told you guys that I was planning on painting this piece, which I am, but again, I thought that wood grain looked pretty unique and wanted to see if maybe I wanted to save it. If you're unsure if you want to leave the wood or paint it, always leave it. It's easier to put paint on than to take it off. So I want to see what this looks like. I want to see what it looks like with the paint. If I like it, great. If I don't, I can always paint it later. When sanding veneer, you do have to be very careful, and that's why I'm using a very high grit. Again, it was 220. So this is what it looks like once it's sanded down. I got a wet rag and just wet it down. This is what it would look like if you just added a clear poly top coat, and I'm not a fan of it. I do think that the wood grain is unique, but I don't like this tone. It's very orange, very yellow. But I'll show you guys later what I end up doing with it. Let's move on. I am going to sand the entire piece, just a scuff sanding. This is again with 220 grit on my Festool sander, and this is just to get it ready for paint, and it will ensure better adherence of your paint. So you're not completely sanding down the piece to raw wood. You're just kind of removing some of the existing finish. There were a couple areas on the top that I needed to give a little bit extra attention to because there were some scratches that I needed to remove. I mentioned in the beginning of this video that I have done several of these dressers in the past, and I've always tended to go for a bold color. I have done one in Bohemian Gold by Melange. I have done a couple in more of like a purple or burgundy tone. They always turn out so beautiful, but this one I really wanted to do in one of my favorite colors, which is green, and you guys will see which one I choose later, but it's definitely not as bold as the ones that I've done in the past, but it really was the perfect fit, the perfect choice for this dresser. To make the rest of the scuff sanding easier on myself, I ended up tipping this dresser on its back so that I could get all of the bottom parts a little bit easier. I am making sure to get all of the sides as well. Basically, you want to scuff sand any and all areas that you're going to be painting. Again, I am using 220 grit on my Festool sander. This is a step that you certainly can do by hand if you don't have a sander. When I first started painting and refinishing furniture, I did not have any fancy equipment, so I did a lot of this by hand. Yes, it will take you more time, but I promise you, you can do it. While I did have the dresser on its back, I found an area that I had missed before that needed some repair. So I just took my wood glue and my clamps and clamped this part together, let it dry and cure, and voila, that was fixed. I will say that you can never have enough clamps if you are doing this. I use them all the time. You're going to want various sizes of clamps, and this is something that I always look for when I'm at estate sales or rummage sales because they can be pricey, but you will use them and you will need them. I will link the clamps that I'm using here. I have many different brands, many different sizes, but these are my favorite. Super easy to use, strong, and durable. Here's a look at what the dresser is looking like right now. So it always gets worse before it gets better, right? It's scuff sanded, I have clamps, I have weights, and we're getting there, I promise you. So let's take a look at the drawers where I did end up filling in the hardware holes. The first product that I used is Quickwood. I don't have that here on video, but I'll link that product for you. But even when I use Quickwood for my first round of hole filling, I always go back with another product, usually this one. I'll link this for you as well. It's my favorite wood filler because you just want to really ensure that your hole or whatever it is, your dent or scratch, is completely filled in before you paint it. The last thing that you want is to be able to see those ghost holes coming through your paint. So that's what I'm doing here, just going over that with my wood filler. Once this is fully dried and cured, then I will come back in with my sander, 220 grit, to just smooth it out and even it out, make sure everything is level and flush and ready for paint. So now we are almost ready for paint. I did give this piece a good cleaning. I didn't get that on video. I'm sorry, but here's the color. It is called Oak Moss by Melange. I have used it several times, and it's this beautiful, earthy and moody kind of muted olive green. It's a very popular color by Melange. It looks good on any style. I really feel like it could go with any type of home decor because it's almost like a neutral green. It's not too bold. It's just perfect. I have mentioned to you guys before that I almost exclusively use Melange paints, and there are several reasons why. One of them being that it is very easy to use. You'll notice that I'm not priming my piece, and that's because I don't have to. With Melange paints, the primer and top coats are built in. So once you have your piece scuff sanded and cleaned, you can get right to the fun part, which is the paint. There are certain circumstances in which you will want to prime if you're worried about bleed through, if you're worried about adherence, but most of the time I do not have to use primer, and I love that about Melange paints. I exclusively hand brush all of my pieces. I don't spray, I don't roll, and I love doing that. With Melange paints, it's so easy because this paint is self-leveling. So even if you see some brush strokes in that initial, first coat of paint, do not worry. Once you add additional coats and once it dries and cures, everything will level out beautifully. The finish of this paint is perfect. It's not matte like a chalk paint, for example, and it's not glossy. It's just the perfect satin finish, and it's very, very durable. I have done several pieces that I've kept for myself in my own home, so I can attest to the superior durability of this paint. I am using my favorite brush. It's called the Rachel by Melange. All of their premium brushes are named after characters from the TV show Friends. So there's a Chandler, there's a Ross, there's a Phoebe, but my favorite is the Rachel. It's an oval brush. I really love the grip. I love that it holds the perfect amount of paint, and it's just smooth and easy to use. I'll make sure to link the Rachel brush for you guys as well. And remember, my code Jen10 is good for 10% off site-wide. So that includes not only the paint, but the brushes, the other products that they have. Anything that you can find on their website will be 10% off with my code. I did end up doing a total of 3 coats on this dresser. Oak Moss is one of those shades for whatever reason. It doesn't have the best coverage on the first coat. And like I said before, don't get scared by that scary first coat, because by, 3 coats, you'll see that the coverage is full and it's level and it looks amazing. I'm moving on to the drawers here. At this point, you guys, I have still left that top drawer untreated. I did sand it down, and I still haven't decided if I am going to leave that wood or if I'm going to paint it. I told you guys earlier that I wanted to see what that wood would look like once I got this color on the rest of the dresser. Unfortunately, what I ended up deciding to do with that top drawer, I did not record. But let me tell you right here what I did, and then you'll see it when you see the final reveal of this dresser. So the wood grain on that top drawer, if you remember, it had a very unique pattern. I didn't like how dark it looked when I added just the water. So what I decided to do is a simple paint wash. I've done paint washes with you guys in the past. I basically took a couple different colors by melange, added a bunch of water, brushed it on, and then wiped it back. And it just kind of muted the tone of that wood a little bit. And when I put it up next to the rest of the drawers in oak moss, it looked so good. So that's what I decided to do. And you'll see that here in a little bit. I'm adding the new hardware. These are just simple knobs that I got at Hobby Lobby. They're just plain and simple, very classic, very versatile. I've used these on several pieces. And remember, that bottom drawer was the one that was pushing in too far, and that was the one where I fixed the drawer stoppers. So you'll see when I push this drawer back in, it stops perfectly. Everything worked. Yay. Here's that top drawer. Again, sorry I didn't have a video of this. I used, for my paint wash, a mix of Woodland Dunes and a little bit of Dime Box White. And like I said, watered it down, brushed it on, and wiped it back. I will link both of those colors for you as well. And now I have to top coat it. I'm using Armadillo by Melange with one of the Zebra top coat brushes. And I call these two things the dynamic duo. Applying this top coat with these brushes is so easy. I do have a code for Zebra brushes as well. That is Gen 15. That will get you 15% off site-wide. Zebra brushes are amazing. They don't just have top coat brushes. They have tons and tons of brushes for all different sorts of things. Definitely check them out. I did a total of 3 coats of the Armadillo. And you guys, just a reminder, here's what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Wait for it. This color is so beautiful, and look at that gorgeous sheen. You would never guess that this is hand brushed. The finish is flawless, everything leveled out beautifully. And what do you guys think of that top drawer with this color? I love it. I really was not expecting to. I thought it was too busy. I thought it would be too much, and I really thought it would probably look better painted. But I was wrong. I love the contrast, and I love that I simplified the placement of the hardware. It was just too haphazard looking before, and now I think it's just classic and timeless. Here are a few still shots. And I have to tell you, this piece did sell right away. This is Oak Moss by Melange. I hope you like it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching.